Hey guys, and welcome to Executive Espresso. We've got a special guest for you, and he is all the way from Veracruz, Mexico. He's up in the mountains, so we were just chatting that unlike here in in the great state of Arkansas, where it's about 108 degrees, yeah, that's pretty toasty. I think you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. I'll have to try that later today. Ingo is in Mexico, and he is an engineer, and is also a Ironman athlete, which we're going to discuss takes an iron mind. He has done that 6 times over in Hawaii. He's a lover of the outdoors. He describes himself as a free spirit, and he's here to share his wisdom and stories about holistic natural health and how you guys and gals in business can develop a similar Ironman mindset to tackle those hurdles in business. And so we'll get him on. Ingo, hey man, thank you for being here. We're just talking that you're luckily up in the mountains escaping some of this heat. But tell us about these Ironman competitions. That's pretty intense. How does one prepare mentally for such a competition?
Yeah, for our Ironman competition, first of all, thanks for the kind introduction here. So, and yeah, I'm actually from Germany, but we're living in Mexico since 1.5 years. And I was actually an athlete almost all my life, at least the last 25 years. I'm doing different kinds of sports, endurance sports, running. And I started doing Ironman back in 2007. Um, I did six meanwhile. I did also other races in between. But I think, yeah, being an Ironman is not really a one-time event. It's more like a lifestyle, and you need to have certain characteristics for being an Ironman. And I mean, you need to be very passionate and very dedicated about your goals, and you also need to have a very strong will and a very strong belief to achieve your goals, right? And I think that's why many Ironman finishers are also successful business people or successful in what they're doing in their professional life, because it's kind of a similar mindset, right? And if you ask me how to develop such a mindset, it's basically, I think you need two main characteristics. And number one is you need to be very passionate about what you're doing, because I mean, I believe you can be only good in something that you really love to do. Um, and I mean, if you want to finish an Ironman, for example, or a marathon, but you hate running, for example, that can work one or two times, but usually it's not lasting. And the same is in a job, for example. I mean, if you're doing a job that you don't enjoy, uh, so usually you can be successful for a year or two, but after a while you will usually get depressive and burn out. And that's why I think, yeah, follow your passions and understand your purpose and what you really love, and make sure that the goals you have in your professional, but also in your private or in your sports goals, that they align very well with your passions and your purpose.
In the Ironman competitions, do you see a lot of people drop out? They have good intentions, they're training for it, they think they have the mindset to do the Ironman, and they never make it to the starting line?
Yes, that's a very good question. Actually, you're asking two questions. I think they're two different questions, because one is if they make it to the starting line, and the other one is making it to the finish line. So meaning actually start but have what they call a DNF, a did not finish, right? So these are the two differences. And I think actually in the Ironman, the most demanding part for the body is not the event itself. I mean, if you prepare well, it's not this one day event where you run 10 hours or 12 hours or whatever, but it's the month long preparation where you have every week you're training like 10, 15, 20 hours per week, intensive training. And this is usually where it's get challenging, right? It's the preparation phase where you need to stay consistent. I think most people, I mean, sure, there's a rate, I don't know exactly, but maybe it's 5 to 10% of did not finish. There can also a lot of things happen during the Ironman race, like you have, your bicycle can break, or you get some cramps, or you have problems with the nutrition, you get some stomach problems. Many things can happen on this day. But I think if you make it to the starting line, the chance is very high that you make it to the finish line.
And you know, from a psychological standpoint, the reason I think that is, and let's see, and you're welcome to disagree, but I think that winning a contest is not during the contest, but it is in the preparation. If you're going to win that race, you're going to win it in the preparation. And if you do that properly, then part of that is setting your mindset. And I think a lot of people put hurdles and they give themselves permission without knowing it. They subconsciously program what I might call a quitting point. I'm going to win, except for if this happens, I'll quit. Or if that happens, I'll quit.
Yes.
And I think that people do that in, well, races. I think they do that in business. I think they do that in relationships. You know, people go to the, the proverbial altar or whatever, and they take their vows. And a lot of people say, still till death do us part. But then they already have that quitting point set. I'm gonna finish the race unless this happens. And I think that's a recipe for failure, because sometimes I'm going to finish the race unless everything doesn't go right. So on that point, I have a question for you. During these Ironman competitions, tell us something that maybe you've had to overcome during the race. And as my dad would say, you just knuckle down and overcome it.
Yeah, so I think that's a great point that you're making, because and I think that's actually key, and I think also that was actually the second point, that you need to become an Ironman. It's a very strong belief that you can achieve something, because if as you're saying it, I mean, if you're making like excuses already before the race, like if it's raining, maybe I will go home early or something like that, then you fail. I mean, you really need to program your mind, and there are many ways to do that. I mean, there are methods and there are books written about that, to program your mind that you are successful. I mean, there's no plan B, right? The bottom line is you're successful. And actually, yeah, if you reach to such a race, especially if it's the first one, there's always something going wrong, because you cannot plan it. I mean, there's so many. It's a long day. I mean, it's it has more than 10 hours for most of people. And there's always something going on. For example, in my first Ironman race, that was in 2007, and I signed up for this race 1 year before. And when I signed up for the race, I couldn't really swim. I mean, I could hold myself above the water, but I couldn't swim. So I had to learn like really freestyle swimming and to behave in Ironman.
That is amazing. Now, if there's one unexpected thing, that was it. I did not expect for you to tell me I entered a race of which swimming was a part, but I didn't know how to swim. Now, that is amazing. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
I was 1 year before I signed up for the race, but then
Oh,
I
okay.
had 1 year to learn swimming. So
1 year to learn swimming. That's amazing.
yeah, in the year or in this race, then there went so many things wrong. I mean,
But, well, I mean, Ingo, the reason I point that out is I hear so many people talk about goals they have, and the reason they say they can't achieve the goal is because they don't know how to do something.
yeah,
Well,
you can
not
always
knowing
learn.
how to do something is an opportunity for learning how to
Yeah,
do it. And I know, some people love Elon Musk, some people hate him. I don't know how you can hate somebody you don't know, but some people do. But one of the things that fascinate me about him is if he doesn't catastrophize not knowing something, and when he doesn't know something, he teaches himself.
yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you
No,
you
and
learn.
I think Elon is a great example. I mean, Elon is really setting the goals high. I mean, you can say he's crazy, right? I mean, he's saying, I want to go to Mars, right? I mean, that's kind of crazy, no? But he's
Yeah, I
working
remember in the in my early days of mental health, back in the early '80s, if someone would have said, "I want to go to Mars," we would have just put them in a white jacket in a locked room and gave them a lot of medication.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's always the guys that thinking crazy that are in the end changing the world, right? It's not the people that thinking in the status quo. It's always the people that thinking. Even if you won't reach Mars, I think he will make so many contributions. I mean, there's the
Yeah,
saying
it,
like
it brings
you
it
shoot
brings
for
to mind
stars and in
a
the end you
Seal
land on the
song.
moon, and you were successful, right?
Well, one of my favorite artists, Seal, and I know that he's kind of old news. You know, he was back in the '90s, but Seal sings, if we're ever going to survive, we got to get a little bit crazy. And I think that you have to get a little bit crazy as far as challenging your preconceived notions about what you can accomplish. But yeah, tell us about something during the race that you had to overcome.
During the race, there were many things. I mean, there was all the time opportunities to quit if you make this exception. I mean, first of all, the swimming was very difficult because if you swim first time in the triathlon competition, and before, I mean, if you're training swimming, you usually go to a swimming pool, right? You have one lane and you swim in your pools, or eventually you go to the sea or to a lake and you're swimming alone in the sea and the lake. In a Ironman, it's very difficult. You have like a few hundred people that are at the same starting line, and they all swim to one buoy that is a few hundred meters out there in the sea. And there are waves, and yeah, it's because there's so many people. It's actually more like wrestling than like swimming. So it's yeah, you feel like drowning in the beginning if you're not used to it. So it's really horrible the first time swimming in a triathlon competition. Till you understand, you need to do the same. Like you need to go out with elbows and make your space around you, and put your legs that nobody's coming from behind and overswim you or something. And yeah, that's a swimming. And then in the first race, also in the end, I got very because also because of the nutrition. I mean, it's also a challenge for the digestive system, right? Because you need to constantly eat to maintain your energy over such a long time. And yeah, if you're not used to that, I mean, you have this power gels and this like maltodextrin stuff and this sweet stuff that you're eating all the time mixed with salt. There are many things you can do wrong, and I got in my first race. But during the run, I got strong stomach problems, but I I was there to finish, right? I didn't. I mean,
Let me make a point about that, and I've never done an Ironman. I've done lots of 5Ks and 10Ks, but I'm also not a big swimmer, even though I have a pool right out there. I like to look at it, not necessarily swim in it. But if I get this straight, you were forcing yourself to eat nutritiously, even though you didn't feel like eating. You knew you had to provide that fuel for your body if you're going to keep on going.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the important point because also in an Ironman competition, let's say you start swimming and then you go cycling, and in the end you run a marathon, right? So you need to set everything up front. As soon as you come out of the water, you need to start eating, otherwise you will run out of power in the second half of the marathon, right? So usually now after a few times I become better in that, and usually I prepare a bottle with like 400 gram maltodextrin and salt and some caffeine and sugar. And I know this bottle I have to drink during the bike race. And the other thing is also you need to pace yourself down during the cycling because it need to feel very easy during the riding the bike because otherwise, I mean, you could go much faster, which many people do, but then it's usually it was too fast to run a good marathon after. So it's also the pacing.
Pacing is essential, and I think that's also essential, of course, in business, building a business. It really amazes me, especially people in business will think that they could be successful in business and not feed their vehicle that's going to get them from point A to point B, which is the finish line of success, whatever goal they set. And what have you found about that in your coaching with folks, helping them out? You do a lot with nutritious health, holistic health. Give us a word about some holistic health concepts in the Ironman and just in everyday life.
Yeah, so holistic health is for me. I mean, basically, that's a little bit I mean, I developed that together, or not. I developed it, but we developed it for ourselves. Basically, my wife and me. So I was always, because I'm an athlete, I was always interested also in nutrition, right? And then actually, my wife came up also when we were students, like 25 years ago. She was very interested in this alternative medicines and alternative food concept. So we learned a lot about that. And now today, I think we can say we live I call it a no doctor lifestyle, right? We're not going to a doctor. We're not taking medicines, also not for our kids. So, because for me, the core belief is that the body is a very powerful organism, right? Our body has the capability to heal itself, and but you need to let him do its job, right? So most people, they don't have the patience to wait for that. So usually, I mean, what happens? We have a headache, we take a pill, or we have a fever, we go to the doctor and we get some antibiotics, and that's disturbing the body's process of healing itself. So I think it's very bad. So I mean, fever is not a if you have a fever, it's not a disease, right? It's a sign that your body is fighting against something. So you need to let him do the job and not interrupt with that. And um, yeah, and most people don't have the time for that. So I think there are 2 points important for that. So one is give the body rest and believe in your. I mean, if you want to go back to such a natural lifestyle. So one is to go back to give your body this ability to heal itself. And the other one that's also important is also to do some fasting. And because fasting is important because basically we have two main systems in our body, two big systems, right? So one is the immune system and the other one is like our digestion, our metabolism. And today in our modern lifestyle is we're constantly eating, right? We're eating all the time. There are not a few, we don't pass a few hours without running to the fridge and need some food, right? So there's always something we stuff inside our mouth. And that means our digestion system, our metabolism is constantly working. And that means on the other hand, our immune system cannot work. And that's why fasting is so powerful. So because when you're fasting, your metabolism rests and your immune system can work. And I'm not even talking now about like fasting for 1 week or something like that, but even if you just extend the periods of time, let's say overnight that you're fasting, let's say you skip breakfast in the morning, or you can do a 24-hour fast. So that helps already to really get your immune system working and yeah, get working on that.
Yeah, and I'll say to the listeners out there, go ahead and check this out with your doctor. Make sure that you're healthy enough for fasting. I'm a believer in fasting, but then again, I'm in good physical condition, and I encourage you guys to check into this, and you can contact INGO for some more information about that too. And we're almost out of time, but moving on to our triple shot, just in a couple words, what's your own top current mental struggle that you're dealing with? Because we all have them.
My own mental struggle, I think my mental struggle is a little bit prioritizing. So because I've especially now when I'm starting a new business, I have many ideas, but sometimes I'm feeling also that the time is passing faster and faster. I mean, especially when
You
I
got
get
to do
older.
triage. Doctors do triage in the ER, and we have to do triage with our business lives. One foot in front of the other. Okay. What's your best mindset hack currently?
My best mindset hack is actually I developed I started more than 1 year ago like a morning routine now where I usually stand up at 5:30 in the morning and I start with half an hour journaling where I get all my thoughts out of my head and just write down what I
That's
want to go out
awesome.
or what comes to my mind. And after this half hour, I usually do like half an hour. It's a combined meditation and breathing practice. Usually I start with 15 minutes breathing exercise and then 15 minutes meditation. And I think that's a perfect start in the day because it wakes me up and clears my mind, and then I have free
It
mind
gets you
for
it gets you fueled up for the day. And finally, before I let our viewers go, what's one thing they can do right now to get out there and start applying an Ironman lifestyle mindset to their life? Just one thing they can get started right away.
I think that's simple, or at least the advice is simple. I mean, you need to dream big, think big, and believe in yourself, and then I'm sure you can achieve anything because usually the limits are in our mind. They're not external.
As we say in the art lab, we call this the art lab. It stands for accurate, realistic thoughts, life affirming beliefs. We first engineer our thoughts, then our thoughts engineer our lives. We need to be great engineers of our thoughts. Ingo, thank you so much for being here, and audience members, thank you so much for being here, and those catching the replay, share it out to those who might could use some tips on holistic health and developing an Ironman mindset for themselves. We will be back tomorrow with another Executive Espresso. Until then, go out there and be healthy.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thanks to all the listeners. Have a great day.